Turn a teacup over and you will probably find the words bone china stamped on the bottom. That means nothing. Almost nothing at all. Bone china is a recipe, not a grade. It is printed on tens of millions of cups, most of which are worth $10 or $15. And it is the single most misleading thing written on the underside of a teacup. People find those two words, decide they have something, and stop looking at the part that actually decides the price. So this is how to read the rest of it. Go and open the china cabinet, the one that has not been touched since it was filled. I will wait. Right. 4 things decide what a cup is worth, and bone china is not one of them. The first is the maker. A short list of names carries almost all the money in this category, and everything else is decorative. The second is the pattern, and specifically whether that pattern was made for 30 years or for 3. The third is completeness. A cup on its own is worth a fraction of the same cup sitting on its matching saucer, and a full service is worth more than the sum of its pieces. This is where most household money quietly disappears, and I will come back to it. The fourth is the gold. Most good cups have gilt on the rim or the handle. If that gold has been worn away by decades of washing, the value goes with it, and it cannot be put back. 2 quick dating rules that cost you nothing. If the bottom says simply England, the piece is generally from 1891 or after. If it says made in England, you are generally looking at something from about 1921 onward. That one word tells you which side of the First World War you are standing on. And one test that is genuinely satisfying but tells you less than people think. Take a cup into a dark room and hold it up to a bare bulb. If it is true bone china, you will see the shadow of your own fingers glowing through the wall of the cup because it is that thin and translucent. That tells you what it is made of. It does not tell you what it is worth. Keep the two separate in your head. Before the list, let me be honest about the top of this market so nobody wastes an evening. The famous cups are not in your cabinet. The Ming Dynasty chicken cup that sold for $36 million is one of about 18 in existence. Imperial Russian and Ottoman services run into tens of thousands, and they are in museums and named collections. None of that is what we are doing here. What we are doing is the gap between a $15 cup and a $2,000 one, which is a real gap, and it is sitting in ordinary houses. Number 10, modern bone china sets. Anything made from roughly the 1970s to the 1990s in a pattern still being produced. This is the bulk of what is in most cabinets. 10 to 50 pounds for a whole set, not per piece, for the set. I am starting here so you can put things down confidently. Modern, mass-produced, still in production, common pattern. Move on. Number 9, Royal Albert Old Country Roses. Deep red roses, a fat band of gold around the rim, and it is the pattern most people recognize instantly. Here is the thing that surprises everybody. It is the most collected pattern on the list, and the individual pieces are worth very little because it is one of the most produced china patterns of the 20th century. A 25-piece set has sold for 170 pounds. That is a few pounds apiece. But scale changes it completely. A 500-piece collection sold for 3,700 pounds. So the rule for this one is the opposite of the rest of the list. Do not sell Old Country Roses piece by piece. The value is in volume and completeness, and a large intact collection is worth many times what the same china fetches broken up across a car boot table. Number 8, Soviet State Porcelain. 1920s Russian porcelain, and the ones to look for are the Chekhonin designs. Stylized flowers with a strong red border, quite graphic, quite unlike anything English. One of these sold for $949. What to check? The factory mark on the base and the boldness of the design. This is not delicate floral work. It looks modern for its age, almost poster-like, and that is what identifies it across the room. Number 7, Royal Worcester, the Harewood service. Royal Worcester is one of the names that carries. A 61-piece Harewood dinner service sold for 880 pounds. What to check? The Royal Worcester mark on the base, and then count what you have. This is a service piece rather than a single cup category, so the number of pieces and whether they match is most of the value. Number 6, Shelley, the chintz patterns. Shelley made floral chintz designs in the 1930s, all over patterns covering the whole surface with small flowers. A collection of various chintz designs sold for 880 pounds. What to check? Shelley in green script on the base. Then look for an artist signature because signed chintz pieces carry a premium over unsigned. And check the pattern coverage because true chintz wraps the entire piece rather than sitting as a panel on one side. Shelley is also worth knowing about for a structural reason. The factory closed in the mid-1960s and the molds went with it. Nothing new is ever coming. Fixed supply permanently. Number 5, Wedgwood Turquoise Florentine. Wedgwood needs no introduction, but the specific thing to look for is the Florentine pattern in turquoise with the Portland vase mark on the base. A 68-piece set fetched 1,200 pounds. What to check? The Portland vase mark, which is a small urn shape, and then spelling, because this is the one name that gets faked with a deliberate misspelling. Genuine is W-E-D-G-W-O-O-D. Read it letter by letter. An extra letter means it is not Wedgwood, whatever the rest of the piece looks like. Number 4, Spode, the Lancaster pattern. Cobalt blue with gilt decoration. A Lancaster service sold for 1,800 pounds. And this particular pattern carries a piece of history because it is Spode's own near copy of the cobalt and gold service that went aboard the Titanic. What to check? The Spode mark, the cobalt ground, and the condition of the gilt over the blue, because gold on a dark ground shows wear more obviously than gold on white, and it is the first thing a buyer looks at. Number 3, Spode Imari, hand-painted. Older Spode, around 1815, hand-painted in the Imari palette, which is bright orange and deep blue with bamboo and peony motifs. One of these sold for $1,892. What to check? Hand painting versus transfer printing. And this is the most useful skill in the whole video. Tilt the piece slowly under a light. Hand-painted work catches the light unevenly, and you can see tiny ridges where a brush loaded and lifted. A printed transfer sits perfectly flat. Ridges mean a person painted it, and a person painting it is most of why it is worth what it is worth. Number 2, Paragon, the heavy gold rose cups. Paragon from around 1940 to 1950. Heavy gold coating, prominent rose design, and genuinely opulent looking. One sold for $2,400. What to check? The Paragon mark, and then read every word around it, because Paragon held royal warrants, and the wording of those warrants changes by period. The more royal wording on the base, the narrower the window the piece belongs to. And check the gold coverage, because on a heavy gold piece, the value lives in the gilt being unworn. Number 1, Meissen, German, and the oldest porcelain house in Europe. The 18th century pieces are the top of what turns up in ordinary circulation. A Meissen cup and saucer from around 1740 to 1745, painted with yellow flower bouquets and insects on a yellow ground, sold for $2,624. What to check? The crossed swords mark an underglazed blue on the base. It is the oldest trademark in continuous use in Europe, and it has been copied constantly, so look at the swords themselves. Genuine ones are painted by hand under the glaze, so they are slightly irregular and they sit beneath the surface rather than on it. Run a fingernail across. If you can feel the mark, it is on top of the glaze, and it is wrong. Now the saucer, because this is where most household money is lost and it deserves its own moment. A beautiful cup on its own reads as an orphan, and it prices like one. Collectors want the pair. So set the cup on its saucer and check 3 things. The gold on both should be faded to the same degree. The pattern numbers should be identical, and the back stamps should agree with each other. A saucer that fits but does not truly match is what the trade calls a marriage. 2 pieces put together later, and any dealer spots it instantly. I have seen more value destroyed by breaking up sets than by any forgery. Somebody keeps the pretty cup and sells the plain saucer for £1, and half the money leaves with it. On cleaning, never put old china in a dishwasher. Detergent strips gilt permanently, and a cup with its gold scoured off is worth a fraction of the same cup untouched. Wash by hand in lukewarm water with nothing abrasive, or leave it dirty until you know what it is. One honest note: these are auction and guide prices from the time of recording, and that market moves. Treat them as a guide and take anything you believe is genuinely rare to a proper appraiser before selling. Right, before you go, here is the whole thing in 4 lines. 1. Bone china means nothing. It is a recipe, not a grade. 2. The maker mark, the pattern, and the gold decide it. Learn 6 names: Shelley, Paragon, Wedgwood, Spode, Royal Worcester, Meissen. 3. Never break up a set and never sell a cup without its saucer. 4. No dishwasher, ever. Gilt does not come back. That is the method. Go and turn everything in the cabinet upside down tonight. It takes an evening, and you only have to learn it once. If this was useful, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what is written on the bottom of yours. I read all of them, and I will tell you what you have.